homeless artist paints portrait of a millionaire. When he sees it, his heart is moved and leads to an unforeseen opportunity. On a gray autumn morning in New York City, the air was crisp and the leaves crunched underfoot. Lazaro, a homeless artist, sat on the sidewalk, his hands stained with vibrant paint. He worked diligently on a worn canvas, capturing the essence of life around him. Each stroke of the brush spoke volumes, telling stories of struggle, hope, and unspoken dreams. Passers-by hurried by, their faces buried in phones, missing the beauty unfolding just a few feet away. As he focused on his art, Lazaro felt a sudden shift in the air. A shadow fell over him, and he looked up to see a man standing before him. Augustus Sterling was a successful millionaire, clad in a tailored suit that screamed privilege. His eyes, however, betrayed something deeper. They wandered over Lazaro's artwork, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. Lazaro could sense the man's discomfort, an unsettling stir in his heart as he gazed at the raw emotions captured in the portrait. "Who painted this?" Augustus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I did," Lazaro replied, his throat tight with a mix of pride and insecurity. Augustus leaned closer, studying the details. "It's powerful. It feels alive." Lazaro's heart raced. He grappled with feelings of inadequacy and vulnerability. Could he engage with someone who seemed so distant from his own reality? The man before him belonged to a world of luxury and ease, far removed from Lazaro's struggle on the streets. "Why are you sitting out here?" Augustus probed, curiosity etched on his face. Lazaro hesitated, weighing his words. "I create art to express what I feel, but it's not easy. Life's been tough." He looked down, the weight of his truth heavy on his shoulders. Augustus's mind swirled with internal conflict. Here was a man who had faced unimaginable hardships, and yet he stood before him with a spark of resilience. "I have everything," he thought, "but I feel empty." He glanced back at the portrait, a reflection of Lazaro's soul laid bare. What did his wealth mean in the face of such raw artistry? "Have you ever thought about showing your work somewhere?" Augustus asked, breaking the silence. Lazaro shrugged. "What's the point? No one wants to see the pain." "Maybe they do," Augustus countered, an idea forming in his mind. "Maybe your art can inspire others." But Lazaro's insecurities bubbled to the surface. "And what do you know about pain? You live in a world of comfort. You don't understand what it's like to struggle every day." Augustus felt a pang of shame. He wanted to argue, to defend himself, but deep down, he realized Lazaro was right. "You're right," he admitted. "I don't know, but I want to understand." In that moment, the world around them faded, leaving only the two men and the connection that began to form. Lazaro looked into Augustus's eyes and saw a flicker of sincerity. Could he trust someone from such a privileged background? Was there a chance that Augustus could truly understand? "Why do you care?" Lazaro asked, his voice trembling slightly. "Because," Augustus replied earnestly, "I've spent my life chasing success, and yet I feel so lost. Maybe your art can show me what I've been missing." Lazaro's heart softened. Here was a man willing to step into the shadows of his life, seeking light in a place where most would turn away. The idea of a friendship, born from their starkly different worlds, began to take root in Lazaro's mind. As they stood in silence, the gray autumn morning transformed into something vibrant and full of possibility. The city hummed around them, but for Lazaro and Augustus, time felt suspended, filled with unspoken hopes and the promise of understanding. In that fragile moment, both men realized they were at a crossroads. Each held a piece of the other's journey, a bridge across the gap of their realities, and the question lingered: could they dare to cross it? As the autumn leaves danced in the chilly breeze, Lazaro found himself lost in memories. The smells of paint and the distant sounds of the city faded away as a flashback took hold of him. He was once a boy, with laughter brightening his days, living in a small apartment with his family. But that laughter turned to silence when tragedy struck. "Lazaro, come help me with dinner," his mother's voice echoed in his mind. He could almost see her smile, warm and inviting. But then, there was darkness. The accident took his family away, leaving him alone in a world that felt cold and unwelcoming. The streets became his new home. They were harsh, but also filled with stories waiting to be told. Painting became his escape. His hands, stained with colors, transformed his pain into art. Each stroke on the canvas was a piece of his heart, a piece of his story. "I paint to remember," he often whispered to himself, "and to keep them alive." Meanwhile, Augustus sat in his luxurious office, surrounded by glass and steel. His world was one of success, where numbers and profits ruled his life. Yet, despite the plush chair and expensive suit, he felt trapped. He gazed out at the bustling streets below, feeling a disconnect with the world outside. "Another deal closed," he muttered to himself, but the words tasted empty. He had everything: wealth, power, and status, but no joy. The beauty of life seemed to slip through his fingers like sand. One day, as he returned to the sidewalk where he first saw Lazaro, he felt a strange pull. He found Lazaro sketching again, his brow furrowed in concentration. Augustus approached, the weight of his world heavy on his shoulders. "Hey," Augustus started, his voice hesitant. "I've been thinking about your painting. It moved me." Lazaro looked up, surprised. You liked it?" His voice trembled slightly, unsure of how to respond to this man who seemed so different from him. "I felt something when I saw it," Augustus admitted, his eyes searching Lazaro's face. "What drives you to paint like this?" Lazaro hesitated, the vulnerability creeping in. "It's my way of dealing with loss. I lost my family, and painting helps me express what I can't say with words." Augustus felt a pang of empathy. "I can't imagine that kind of pain. My life, it's full of success, but I feel empty. I've worked hard for everything, but it's like I'm missing something. I don't know what it is." Lazaro studied Augustus, seeing the man's struggles mirrored in his own life. "You may have everything, but if you don't feel anything, what's the point?" Augustus nodded slowly, the truth of Lazaro's words resonating within him. "I've spent so much time chasing goals. I've forgotten how to connect with people. I've forgotten what really matters." As the two men shared their stories, a bond began to form. It was unusual, this friendship blossoming between a millionaire and a homeless artist. They were worlds apart, yet tied by the threads of loss and longing. "Maybe we can help each other," Lazaro suggested, a spark of hope igniting in his heart. "You see beauty in my art, and I can help you find the beauty in life again." Augustus smiled, feeling a warmth spread within him. "I'd like that. I want to learn how to feel again. I want to understand what I've been missing." As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the city, both men pondered their unexpected friendship. They were two lost souls, navigating through shadows, each carrying their own burdens. And in that moment, they realized that perhaps, together, they could find a way to illuminate the darkness that surrounded them. As the days turned into weeks, Augustus found himself drawn to Lazaro's spot on the sidewalk more frequently. He would sit on a nearby bench, watching as Lazaro painted with fierce passion. Each brushstroke seemed to tell a story, as if the canvas whispered secrets only Lazaro could hear. "Your work is incredible," Augustus said one afternoon, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them. Lazaro paused, looking up from his canvas. "Thank you, but it's just what I do to cope," he replied, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. "Coping with what?" Augustus asked, genuinely curious. "My past," Lazaro said, his gaze drifting to the street. "It's hard to explain, but painting helps me feel alive again." Augustus nodded, recognizing the weight of those words. He could sense the emotional depth behind Lazaro's art, something he had longed for in his own life. I think I understand. Sometimes I feel like I'm just going through the motions. Lazzaro turned back to his painting, his brush moving with purpose. You have everything, yet you feel empty? It's complicated, Augustus admitted. I have success, a nice house, money, but it feels hollow, like I'm missing something important. They fell into a contemplative silence, the sounds of the bustling city fading into the background. Lazzaro dipped his brush into a vibrant shade of blue, inspired by their conversation. Maybe you need to find what truly matters to you, what makes you feel alive. Augustus leaned forward, intrigued. What do you mean? Not just success, Lazzaro explained, his voice steady. What brings you joy? What makes you feel connected to others? With each word, Augustus began to peel back the layers of his own life. I've never really thought about it that way. I guess I'm always focused on work, on achieving more. Sometimes, the real achievement is in the connections we make, Lazzaro replied, his eyes sparkling with insight. You've seen something in my art. That's a connection. Inspired by their growing bond, Lazzaro decided to paint a portrait of Augustus, aiming to capture the man behind the polished exterior. I want to paint you, he said, excitement bubbling in his voice. But not just your face. I want to show what lies beneath. Augustus raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What do you mean? I want to show your truth, Lazzaro explained, his brush poised above the canvas. The insecurities, the doubts, the real you. A shadow crossed Augustus's face, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Are you sure you want to do that? What if I don't like what you see? Then we'll talk about it, Lazzaro said, determination in his voice. Art is not just about beauty, it's about honesty. I want to create something that resonates. As Lazzaro began to sketch, Augustus felt a mix of anticipation and apprehension. He had spent so much time hiding behind a facade, afraid to show his true self. Okay, he said finally, a hint of vulnerability in his tone. Let's do it. Days passed as Lazzaro poured his heart into the canvas. Each stroke became a cathartic release, a blend of his own struggles and the essence of Augustus's spirit. He painted the lines of worry on Augustus's forehead and the flicker of doubt in his eyes, all while balancing it with the strength he saw in him. Sometimes I feel like I'm just a shadow, Augustus confessed one day, watching Lazzaro work. A shadow of who I could be. Lazzaro paused, looking deeply into Augustus's eyes. You're more than that. You just need to let go of the expectations and embrace who you are. Augustus nodded slowly, feeling the weight of those words. It's hard to break free from what others expect of me. I get it, Lazzaro replied, his voice softening. But remember, true freedom comes from being yourself. As Augustus watched Lazzaro paint, he felt a flicker of hope. This friendship was changing him, helping him confront the emptiness he had lived with for so long. A bond was forming, one that transcended the barriers of their vastly different worlds. Little did they know, the portrait would soon unveil truths neither of them were prepared to face. The sun rose softly over New York City, casting a warm glow on the sidewalk where Lazzaro had spent countless hours painting and dreaming. Today, however, felt different. The air was thick with anticipation as Augustus arrived, his heart racing with curiosity. He had been waiting for this moment since Lazzaro had begun to paint his portrait. As Augustus approached, Lazzaro stood before the canvas, his hands stained with colors that seemed to speak of his emotions. The completed portrait awaited its audience, and Lazzaro's breath caught in his throat. He turned to Augustus, who stood at a distance, eyes wide with wonder. Are you ready? Lazzaro asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Augustus nodded, his heart pounding. I've been waiting for this moment, he replied. The weight of his words hung between them, filled with unspoken fears and hopes. With a deep breath, Lazzaro stepped aside to reveal the painting. The canvas captured Augustus in a way he had never seen before, his strong jawline, his confident stance, but also something deeper. The portrait unveiled the hidden vulnerabilities that lay beneath his polished exterior. Augustus felt a rush of emotions he had long buried, and he struggled to hold back tears. "Oh," he breathed, stepping closer to the canvas. This is me?" "Yes," Lazaro replied, his voice trembling. "I wanted to show not just your face, but what lies beneath. The pain, the struggle, the beauty." Tears began to flow down Augustus's cheeks as he examined the portrait. "I didn't realize how much I was hiding," he confessed, his voice thick with emotion. "I've been so focused on success that I forgot how to feel." Lazaro watched as Augustus's tears fell onto the sidewalk, each drop representing years of unexpressed feelings. The sight stirred something deep inside him, a mix of pride and concern. "It's okay to feel, Augustus. It's okay to let it out." Augustus turned to Lazaro, his eyes searching for understanding. "You've helped me see things I never wanted to confront. This connection we have, it scares me." "Why does it scare you?" Lazaro asked, tilting his head slightly, curiosity etched on his face. "Because it's real," Augustus admitted, wiping his tears with the back of his hand. "I've built walls around myself for so long. I didn't think I could ever let anyone in again." Lazaro felt a pang of empathy. He understood the fear of vulnerability all too well. But sometimes, letting others in can be the most freeing thing. It can help us heal. As Augustus studied the portrait, the weight of his life choices pressed down on him. He thought of the job offer he had received, a dream opportunity waiting for him in a distant city. "I have to make a decision soon," he said softly, breaking the silence. "What decision?" Lazaro asked, sensing the shift in the air. "I was offered a promotion. It would mean moving away, starting a new chapter, but it could also mean leaving you behind." Augustus's voice cracked as he spoke. Lazaro's heart sank. He had feared this moment, the possibility of losing the one person who had begun to understand him. "You have to do what's best for you, Augustus, but I hope you remember what we've built here." Augustus stepped closer to Lazaro, his expression earnest. "I don't want to lose this friendship. You've shown me a part of myself I didn't know existed." "I want you to succeed," Lazaro replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside him. "But I also want you to remember that true success isn't just about a job or money. It's about connections and the people who touch our lives." As they stood together, the weight of their unspoken bond hung in the air. Augustus felt torn between ambition and the warmth of their friendship. The portrait seemed to glow with an inner light, a reminder of the journey they had shared. "Lazaro," Augustus said, his voice firming, "I don't want to choose between my career and our friendship. I want both." A faint smile crossed Lazaro's face, hope flickering in his heart. "Then perhaps it's not about choosing, but about finding a way to make both work." As the sun began to set, painting the sky with colors that mirrored Lazaro's palette, both men stood in silence, contemplating the path ahead. They knew that whatever decision Augustus made, their connection would forever change them both, illuminating the shadows they had once inhabited. The chill of autumn lingered in the air as Augustus sat on a park bench, his mind racing with thoughts of ambition and friendship. He looked at the canvas in front of him, painted by Lazaro, and felt a wave of emotions wash over him. The vibrant colors and raw emotions captured in the artwork reminded him of the connection they had formed. He knew he faced a tough decision. "Lazaro," he began softly, searching for the right words. "Your art has changed me. It made me see the beauty in things I never noticed before." Lazaro, who was standing nearby, paused in his work. He looked over his shoulder, curious. "What do you mean, Augustus?" "I have this job offer," Augustus admitted, his voice heavy with uncertainty. "It's a great opportunity in another city, but I don't want to leave you behind. You've opened my eyes to so much." Lazaro turned to face Augustus fully. "But it's your dream, right? You should go for it." His tone was steady, but inside, he felt a knot tightening in his stomach. The thought of losing Augustus felt unbearable. Maybe, Augustus replied, running a hand through his hair. But what if I lose this friendship? I've never felt this kind of connection before. It makes everything else seem empty. The two men stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Lazzaro picked up a brush and continued to work on his self-portrait. Each stroke reflected his journey, his struggles, and his longing for validation. This painting was not just for him, it was a piece of his soul laid bare. "Do you think I'll ever be good enough?" Lazzaro asked suddenly, breaking the silence. "Good enough for people to see me, not just the artist on the street?" Augustus stepped closer, observing Lazzaro's intense focus. "You are already good enough. You've shown me that art is not just about skill, it's about feeling. You make people feel." Lazzaro's hands trembled slightly as he painted. "I just want someone to understand what I've been through. I fear that if you leave, I'll go back to being invisible." "Lazzaro, you won't be invisible," Augustus reassured him. "You have a gift. People will see you. You've made me see you. That has to count for something." "But what if I can't do it without you?" Lazzaro's voice cracked, revealing his vulnerability. "What if I can't keep going?" Augustus felt a pang in his chest. He wanted to reach out, to comfort Lazzaro, but he also needed to be honest about his own feelings. "I don't want to hold you back either. You deserve to shine. This opportunity could change everything for you." Lazzaro put down his brush and turned to face Augustus. "What if we both take a leap? What if you go for your job and I keep painting? We can support each other from a distance. I believe in you, Augustus." Augustus looked into Lazzaro's eyes and saw the determination there. "You really mean that?" "Of course," Lazzaro replied, a small smile breaking through his earlier worry. "You've already changed my life. It's time you take a chance on yours." Augustus felt a sense of relief wash over him. "Maybe you're right. True success isn't just about a job or money. It's about the bonds we create and the impact we have on each other." Lazzaro nodded, feeling a spark of hope ignite within him. "And I won't let fear stop me either. I'll keep painting, and I'll find a way to show my work to the world." As they stood together, a newfound understanding settled between them. They both faced their fears of separation, but realized that their friendship could transcend distance. "Promise me something," Augustus said, his voice firm. "No matter where I go, you will keep painting, and never lose sight of who you are." "I promise," Lazzaro replied, his heart swelling with gratitude. "And you will always have a place in my art, Augustus. Always." With this promise, a sense of clarity emerged. They each felt lighter, ready to embrace the paths ahead, while holding on to the light they had found in each other. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the city, Augustus stood before Lazzaro, his heart heavy yet resolute. The air was thick with unspoken words as they prepared for the moment that would change everything. Augustus took a deep breath, trying to summon the courage to share his decision. "Lazzaro," he began, his voice steady but low. "I've thought a lot about what we discussed. I need to take the job in San Francisco." Lazzaro felt a pang in his chest. He had known this moment would come, yet hearing it aloud made it all too real. "I understand," he replied, trying to keep his voice calm. "It's a great opportunity for you. But I want you to know," Augustus continued, stepping closer, "that I don't want our friendship to end. I will always support you, your art, your journey. Distance won't change that." Lazzaro looked into Augustus's eyes, searching for sincerity. "You really mean that?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Augustus nodded, his expression earnest. "Yes, I promise to help you showcase your work. I believe in you, Lazzaro. Your talent deserves to be seen." The warmth from Augustus's words washed over Lazzaro, filling the void of uncertainty that lingered in his heart. "I've never had anyone believe in me like that before," he admitted, his voice trembling slightly. "I know it's hard to trust," Augustus replied, his tone softening. "But I am here for you. We can make this work, no matter the distance." In that moment, Lazaro felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. The thought of showcasing his art, of stepping into a world he once thought impossible, began to feel tangible. "I want to try," he said, determination creeping into his voice. "I want to show people what I can do." Augustus smiled, relief flooding his features. "That's the spirit. We'll find a gallery, and I will help you every step of the way. Just think about it, your first exhibit." As they spoke, Lazaro's mind raced with possibilities. He imagined a room filled with people admiring his work, discussing his journey. It felt surreal, yet he could almost taste the excitement. "I never thought I would get to this point," Lazaro said, his eyes lighting up. "Art has always been my escape, but now it feels like it could be my future." "Exactly," Augustus encouraged. "You have the talent and the story. People will connect with your art. Just keep pushing forward." Lazaro took a step back, his heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you, Augustus, for everything. You've changed my life." Augustus chuckled softly, a hint of sadness in his eyes. "And you've changed mine, Lazaro. I had become so lost in my own world, and you showed me what really matters." They shared a moment of silence, each man lost in his thoughts. The city around them continued to buzz, but in that small space, it felt as if time had stopped. "Are you ready for your first exhibit?" Augustus asked, breaking the stillness with a playful smile. Lazaro laughed, shaking his head. "Not yet. I have a lot of work to do before that happens. I need to create, to express myself. But I promise, I will make it happen." "I'll be there, cheering you on," Augustus replied, his voice warm. "And I'll help you find the right place. Just remember, no matter where I am, I'm just a call away." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Lazaro felt a sense of peace wash over him. The shadows that once loomed large in his life felt lighter now, thanks to the bond he shared with Augustus. "Let's make a plan," Lazaro said, filled with excitement. "I want to create something special for my exhibit." "Absolutely," Augustus agreed, his enthusiasm matching Lazaro's. "Let's brainstorm ideas. This is just the beginning." In that moment, the two men stood together, united by their dreams and the promise of a brighter future. As they forged ahead, they knew their friendship would continue to thrive, bridging the gap between their worlds and guiding them both toward the light they had found in each other amidst the shadows. Share this story if you believe that friendship can inspire us to chase our dreams, no matter the distance. Leave a comment about a time when someone supported you in your journey, and subscribe to the channel for more uplifting stories like this one.